Yeah, okay, I know what some of you are thinking. You got your Runaway Season 3 video up before your Titans Season 2 video? I still need to watch the last 3 episodes of Titans Season 2. I haven't gotten around to those yet. But like I've said, I will get around to it eventually. Probably next month. Because for the rest of this month, I'm gonna be busy. There's gonna be a lot of stuff going on with Star Wars and Cats and probably another Birds of Prey trailer, hopefully. Plus, I have a full-time job now. So yeah, I'm gonna be a little busy. But I promise you, I will get around to reviewing Titans Season 2. It'll probably be next month, but it's gonna happen. But in the meantime, I just finished watching Runaway Season 3, so let's talk about that. Marvel's Runaways Season 3. The final season. Breaks my heart. But because this is the final season, this is really the only chance I'm gonna have to talk about it, so I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning. I'm gonna talk about the spoilers in Runaways Season 3. So you have been warned. So a little recap, I got into Runaways kinda late. When they announced that they were gonna have a crossover with Cloak and Dagger in Season 3, I caught myself up on Seasons 1 and 2 of Runaways, because Cloak and Dagger I watched as both seasons aired, and I made videos on those. You can check those out if you want. So as I was catching up on Runaways, I made videos on Seasons 1 and 2. You can watch those if you want also. So now Runaways Season 3 has come out with its Cloak and Dagger crossover episode, which I will touch on a little later because that episode was a little later in the season. So Season 3 of Runaways pretty much picks up where Season 2 left off. Carolina Dean, Janet Stein, and Chase Stein were taken prisoner by Jonah and the aliens and the magistrate. Gert is also being held hostage, and now the remaining Runaways have to rescue them. That's pretty much taken care of in the first 2 episodes of this season, out of the 10. Yeah, because this season is a little shorter than I expected it was gonna be, we gotta get the ball rolling with the story. I honestly, for the life of me, do not understand why final seasons are condensed. They're given fewer episodes. I mean, this show, it wasn't as much of a problem for me as, say, Game of Thrones, for example, but I, for one, would find it pretty cool if a final season of a show was given more episodes. I think that would be a nice change. But Season 3 of Runaways, it takes a few episodes to actually get the main story rolling because we spend, like, the first part of the season wrapping up the cliffhangers from Season 2, mainly Zavin and her prophecy. Leslie Dean was pregnant, so now she's having another baby. This baby is of royal inheritance in the magistrate, and it turns out that this baby is, like, the one that Zavin is destined to love and protect. And at first it was kind of confusing because I had a couple of thoughts running through my head. One of which was, didn't like Twilight do something like this or some shit? I never watched Twilight or anything, but it's like this one character is destined to love someone, but it's not actually that someone. It turned out to be like a baby. So is it gonna be like this character's gonna creepily love this baby like pedophile style? Ugh. But no, this show's like, nah, we're not doing that. Instead of that kind of love, it's like, you know, baby love. And it turned out to be actually pretty sweet. But the second thought that went through my head was, isn't that kind of retconning the prophecy from Season 2? I mean, I don't really remember all of it from Season 2 because I only watched it once, but I thought the prophecy was like this alien saved Zavin and now they're destined to be together. I don't know, I could be completely wrong on that. My memory could be wrong. My final verdict is that I am actually glad that Zavin got her good resolution. I did end up liking her as a character. She was a good character. That smile when she was holding the baby for the first time, I was like, yeah, look at that smile. That's genuine. It was sweet. But then the real point of this season comes into play. We got a new villain in town. Morgan Lefay, played by Elizabeth Hurley, who, let's just say she really milks her part. The way she speaks with that really, like, airy, seductive British accent.
There is no need to be afraid of the dark.
Plus the fact that she's showing all that boobage. I was like, this is a classic old school evil sorceress lady villain, like Maleficent or something. I thought Elizabeth Hurley did a really good job. She owns the role of evil sorceress. And she does some bad shit in this season, dude, I'm telling you. Really starting with invading Nico Minoru's mind. Like, this season is really Nico-centric because she's the Wiccan, you know, the witch that has the connection to the Dark Dimension and Morgan Le Fay and all that. So Lyrica Okano has a lot of spotlight in here, and she steps up to it. She also does a really great job. Like, of the Runaway characters this season, she, Alex, and Gert were like the standouts to me. Oh, and Chase, because Greg Sulkin's American accent got a lot better. But Nico is like the one that goes through the most change this season, and she gets the most focus. Her relationship with Carolina is really put to the test. And yeah, one of the things I really like about this show is that it stays away from the cliche, like, oh, the story's gonna go here, we're predictable, right? This show really says, what if we didn't do that? You know, what if we actually try to be realistic? At quite a few points in this show, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that just happened. That is real, it's not good, and it's actually making me kind of sad. This is where the spoilers start coming in. Cause main characters die in this season, mostly adults. Like Janet Stein, Chase's mother. I'd say she dies, but I mean, well, she doesn't like die in the conventional sense. She decides to stay in that, like, algorithm, the prison that she was being kept in at the end of season 2. She decides to stick around. So she's like Zola in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where now her mind is in a computer, and so she can help the good guys out in that way. I did actually find that kind of silly. I didn't think it was as well done, or at least as well explained as it was in the Winter Soldier. Or like L3 in Solo: A Star Wars Story, where like they upload her hard drive, her memory into a machine. But really, it was the death of Catherine Wilder, who's Alex's mother, that made me go like, oh shit, like what the fuck? Because she's in jail for the murder of Darius in season 2, and she gets totally shivved for it. Like that one prison girl like leans in real close, she's like, Tamar says hello. And then it cuts away, and then it cuts back, and she's just all dead and bloody sitting on the floor, and I was like, oh, fuck. That's not pretty. That's dark. Especially since the last conversation she had with her son ended really badly, because she was all like, I love you, and then Alex responds, go to hell. I was like, what the fuck? How can you say that to your own mother? I mean, I know she's a criminal, but still. And then she died, and I'm like, yeah, that's some really dark shit. I mean, props to the show for going that extra mile. Yeah, props to the writers. They did a really good job this season, in some parts. In parts like that, anyway. But later on, Alex finds himself trapped in the Dark Dimension, along with some other characters. You know, Tina Minoru's in there as well, Nico's mother. And so the Runaways have to go to the Dark Dimension to rescue them. And when I first heard about this Dark Dimension in this season of Runaways, I was like, okay, that's how Cloak and Dagger come into play. Because Tyrone Johnson, you know, Cloak, is all about that Dark Dimension. And sure enough, when Cloak and Dagger showed up at the end of episode 7, I was like, yeah, it's Cloak and Dagger. It's so good to see them again. After, you know, their show was tragically canceled, that broke my freaking heart, dude. I was really rooting for them to have a season 3. You know that if you watch my videos on Cloak and Dagger. So when I learned that Cloak and Dagger was canceled, I was pretty sad, because that sucks. So when I saw the characters show up in Runaways season 3, I was like, alright, it's good to see Olivia Holt and Aubrey Joseph come back for one last hurrah as the characters Cloak and Dagger. But complete honesty here, after watching that crossover episode, I gotta say, it almost felt unnecessary because Cloak and Dagger didn't really do much to help with the situation. I feel like they didn't really have to be there, and that the Runaways could have handled the whole going to the Dark Dimension and saving Alex and everyone on their own. So story-wise, it was just okay. But just fanboy-wise, you know, because that's what I consider myself first, I thought it was really cool to see, you know, Cloak and Dagger and the Runaways together in an episode. You know, Dagger throws a light dagger at Nico, and then it turns dark in Nico's hand. I was like, that's some solid teamwork right there. That's badass. Also, the fact that there were some MCU references that I didn't see coming. Like, you see the Darkhold, and I was like, holy shit, it's the Darkhold from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. Yeah, Robert Minoru, Tina's father, finds the Darkhold before he dies, and I was like, I guess it makes sense that the Darkhold would be here because the Darkhold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in LA, and Runaways takes place in LA. I don't know how exactly it wound up in the Minoru house, but I can let that little detail slide because holy shit, it's the freaking Darkhold. And it's just a reference that I did not see coming at all. I was completely blind to that. Also, a bigger one here. That guy Quentin, it turns out that he's a sorcerer, a practicer of the mystic arts. You know, like Doctor Strange. Which again makes sense because the Dark Dimension was first seen in the Doctor Strange movie. So when Quentin reveals himself to be a sorcerer and he starts doing spells, I was like, holy shit. That is a solid reference right there. That is awesome. So yeah, solid MCU references in Runaways Season 3. Alright, now let's talk about the finale, because that big showdown with Morgan Lefay and the Runaways and Pride, that had some shit. Actually, the penultimate episode, episode 9, had the big throwdown with Morgan and the Runaways, which they defeat her by, you know, Gert, she pours the salt around her, and apparently that raises a barrier, and then Tina comes out of nowhere, does a spell, and then Morgan, like, disintegrates up back into the Dark Dimension where she belongs, to which I was like, alright, cool, you know, Morgan is defeated, good job. But not before she threw Gert into a chandelier, which ended up stabbing her in the back, and yeah, Gert dies. When that happened, I was like, what? No. Like, I was legitimately sad. That sucked. Because Gert was one of my, like, favorite characters in the show. And now she's dead? Again, props to the writing team for having the balls to kill off a main character. But why Gert? But you know what? It's okay, because the last episode featured some time travel, which, god damn it, that's 3 TV seasons I can think of off the top of my head where the last episode featured like time travel of some sort. Titan Season 1 had a possible future that could happen. Siren Season 2 had a possible future that could happen. And now Runaways Season 3 had a possible future that could happen. I never liked it. I don't like it in TV shows when they do that. Because it jumps to, what is it, the year 2028? And Chase is working on time travel so he can go back in time and save Gert, which yeah, spoiler alert, that does end up happening. Alex Wilder has gone rogue, he's turned into a villain, and so they're like time wizards with their watches. I'm like, okay, so you guys handled time travel a little differently than Avengers Endgame did, which really just confuses the shit out of my brain. Because I'm like, does time travel work in this way or this way? It's like, it's conflicting. I mean, that's a nitpick, you know, it's all for the sake of story. That's what really matters. I can look past things like time travel working differently in Runaways than it does in Endgame, as long as the story works out and is good. And yeah, in this case, I thought the story worked out, and I thought it was pretty good, because they go back to the day of the big throwdown with Morgan Lefay, and future Chase saves Gert from being killed, but not before being impaled himself. So future Chase dies, but then present day Chase comes out, and so all the Runaways are alive again, and Morgan Lefay is defeated, and so good. Victory! This finale was a bit confusing. I feel like it could have been written a little better, but ultimately I don't regret watching a second of the entirety of Runaways, seasons 1, 2, and 3, and Cloak and Dagger seasons 1 and 2 for that matter. And that last shot when you see all 6 of them walking away together, I was like, bye. It was nice knowing you. I gotta say, as much as I'm looking forward to these upcoming Marvel Disney Plus shows, I'm gonna miss Cloak and Dagger and Runaways, whether they are official MCU canon or not. I felt like there were some really good character stories about these rebellious youths who have super abilities and decide to do good with them. Granted, these shows did not have as much action and budget as the Marvel movies do, and sometimes the story did slow down and bore me a couple times, in my opinion. But the good of these shows far outweighs the bad. I'm sad to see them go. I am always hopeful for the future. I would love to see the Runaways or Cloak and Dagger or both again, but for now it looks like this is the end for both of those shows. But they both had good runs. I love the characters, I love the story, I love the humor. This season in particular was pretty funny. I am going to miss them. So, Runaways Season 3. Have you watched it? What did you think about it? And if you've watched both, then which show do you like more, Cloak and Dagger or Runaways? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.